Hello again. Welcome back inside the Tier 4 studio here in Morgantown, West Virginia for 24/7 Sports. I am Mike Casaza. It's Wednesday, time for our weekly question and answer session here on Facebook Live. This week sponsored by absolutely nobody. I threw it out there last week hoping I could generate sponsorships for my forthcoming furnace purchase, and no one took the bait. I think obviously everybody is just putting together their pitch and their portfolio, and that the offers will come downhill quickly, and then I'll have so many to pick from, and then within time this space will have a sponsorship across the bottom of the screen. Guy can dream, can he? What can you dream of this week? Well, certainly a home win against number 11 Oklahoma State. That is what West Virginia is up against for a noon kickoff at home. What do you know? Another good team on the schedule. Oklahoma State certainly in the same class with TCU and Virginia Tech. West Virginia hasn't played either one of those at home. You could argue has been at a disadvantage both times with certainly the home field that TCU had, and maybe the proximity or the crowd at FedEx Field. A lot of people complained about how the operations crew, which was Virginia Tech, did seem to favor Virginia Tech with videos and sound effects and music and things like that. Certainly the case at TCU. It's a home game. It's what it's supposed to be. For the first time, though, West Virginia gets a top 10, 11, 12 team at home. For some reason, Texas Tech was ranked a couple weeks ago. Didn't think they were a top echelon team. Certainly not in the top 25 now, and not in the same group as those other three opponents that we have discussed here. But a lot of points is what we expect, which means this will probably be a 27-24 game, something like that. That's how it goes, right? Sports writers especially spend all their time and all their words forecasting. That's my dog, I'm sorry. Forecasting an offensive explosion, and it just doesn't work that way. That's the great part about sports. However, in this one, I think you're going to see the ball in the air and players in the end zone quite a bit. Just seems the way that those offenses are designed and how the defenses are played. Of course, last week for both teams, a little bit concerning, or at least worth noting because of what happened. Oklahoma State really beat up on the offensive line, couldn't run the ball, and had a hard time against the Texas defense that is back, I guess. And then West Virginia, really good quarters. I hope that the fourth quarter doesn't totally sour what happened in the first three. I think you could look at the first 45 minutes of that game and say it was certainly another step forward, and in succession with what was an inarguable step forward against Texas Tech in that fourth quarter. So whatever momentum you had from that game against Texas Tech kept it going with the first three quarters against a game Baylor team, and then things just go crazy at the end. We can spend time talking about that. I can defend certain positions and certainly try and convict others, but what does it mean Saturday? Who knows? West Virginia is a team that has had, let's say, issues, I guess, just with consistency, which will happen with young players and new starters, but you are in the 8th game of the season now, and when I say consistency, I mean from one quarter to the next, and maybe even first half to second half or week to week. Who knows what happens Saturday, but again, being home against a good team for a change could be beneficial. Certainly knows this offense and the personnel on the other teams, which could also work in Oklahoma State's favor, but really I don't think a lot of surprises for West Virginia. Has played good competition, knows what Oklahoma State is about, and if you look at what Tony Gibson has done throughout his career, I'm going to write about this later in the week, but he's played 7 of the top 5 scoring offenses at the end of the year in his first 14, 15, 16, his first couple of years, 3 full seasons as defensive coordinator. Done pretty well. Hasn't won them all, but has kept the scoring and the yardage down. He seems to have a formula, so you can keep that in your pocket as perhaps something to make you feel good Saturday afternoon. Let's start with some questions here. One already in the queue. I'll get to that one first, and then I will go to everybody else who is waiting to ask. This one comes from W.V. Rugger. It seemed to me that a light went off in Xavier Preston's head in the Baylor game. Something made him angry earlier, and then he played angry and smart the rest of the way. Am I crazy? I don't know if I have a breaking point for him. I think he was really effective and very active in the second half of that game, in the fourth quarter, toward the end. Especially, I know that his coaches said it was the best game he played. Certainly a long time coming for him. I don't remember anything that made me say, wow, here comes Preston, but it was certainly hard to ignore his presence and his contributions there. And they've been waiting for that. I think that's the one guy that you knew what you had with David Long and Al Rashid Benton. A matter of time with both of them coming together. And again, maybe for Preston, it's a long time coming because he's been, that next guy, a physical specimen, a talent for sure, physically, but could he play in the games, the way that he looked in a uniform? Or was he just a guy who knew? But he certainly showed up late in the game, made two very big plays, also made the pass interference that got them down near the goal line, which put things in jeopardy. Funny to hear him talk about that, though. He wasn't sure what he did or what he did wrong in that, and it was a little guy. Preston's pretty big, so a little guy getting flicked like that, at the velocity that play happened. Sometimes it's easy to get a pass interference penalty, but he's played worse certainly than he did. The goal for him now is maybe not play better, play consistently like that. Again, this is his fourth year. People have been waiting for him to show up like that for a long time. As he said yesterday when we got to talk to him, it wasn't the end for him, he didn't think. A lot of people said, hey, what was it like to finally play to the level you expected? And he said, I have a lot of time left here, so I don't think he thought that was any sort of a coronation or commencement. It was probably just the beginning for him, he hopes. Going into the questions here, will they press much against WV receivers? Can Tonkery become an important playmaker in defense once again? Again, Tonkery probably would have played in place of Preston. They had actually moved him from Will to Sam experimentally because, well, one, it gets the fourth linebacker on the field, and two, you're not taking Benton and Long off the field because they're, one, way too valuable, and two, they're conditioned to play a lot. Long came back, to his credit, in very good shape after missing the first 4 games. He played at TCU and played just about every snap, and he dragged himself for as far as he could. Saturday against Baylor, he had to be taken out. It was Tonkery who came in. Tonkery was a great story for the first couple of weeks. He was exposed a little bit, I think, in some other games where he didn't tackle, he didn't attack as well, and then didn't play well enough to be in the game at all. And some other times, he was really only out in the field Saturday by necessity. So it's great to have him around if he can contribute. I don't know the answer to that question right now because, again, I don't know when he's going to get the opportunities. We talk a lot about depth and the numbers you play on defense. I think you find with teams that have seniors in big positions, you're not going to see a lot of depth. For example, last year, defensive line played 3 seniors a whole lot and had concerns about their defensive line depth. But those 3 seniors, Christian Brown, Darian Howard, and, I am blanking on the other defensive end. Forgive me. I don't want to spend too much time thinking, but you had 3 seniors who played a lot and could play. Noble Wachukwu, there he is. You had 3 defensive linemen who were seniors and could play a lot. You didn't want them out of the game, so maybe you had depth, but if you're playing a guy who doesn't know a whole lot about the position or the physicality, do you want him playing? If you're taking Long and you're taking Benton out of the game, you're putting young guys in, but you're also, getting good guys a rest, but you're also taking your good guys off the field. I wouldn't worry too much about that right now. Maybe that's what the good thing about Preston showing up was, is that you don't have to, give guys a rest and invite unknowns onto the field. So can he play? We'll see. I just don't know when he's going to get the chances to. Hope that was a good answer to a good question. Probably better than the answer. This is going to be a shootout, says Mike Beckett. Okay. Ron Sandrith. SOS Justin Crawford. Where did you go? Would be nice to keep the offense on the field for some longer drives to keep OSU offense off the field. Agreed. Except, how long have we been talking about improving the running game or using the running game, and how often have we just kind of been in awe of what Will Grier and the passing game have done? Listen, I know 50-50 balance is cool. I'm just not sure it's what this team does or intends to do. You have a terrific quarterback, kind of a generational thing here, maybe when you look at him and his receivers. Why do you want to turn around and hand it off when you can do a lot of great things for yardage and for scoring and for winning games, and maybe even giving your defense a rest, who knows, when you can pass it? Situationally, sure, we could talk about the run versus the pass at the end of the game Saturday. There's a time and a place to turn around and hand it off, but I think if you have a really good quarterback and 3 or 4 really good receivers, you kind of be silly not to use them. And then we'd be back here on one Wednesday saying, man, they need to pass the ball more, and life comes full circle like that. I think clock control will be important. Getting first downs will be important. Productivity on first down will be important. West Virginia had 11 third downs against Baylor. 9 of them were 7 yards or more on third down. So that means they were not doing their work on first and second down. If they gain yardage on first down, they can be creative on second down. Perhaps they shoot the moon. Perhaps they try to set up a third down. Who knows? But a lot of answers come from that first down snap. I do think that Justin Crawford needs to play better. I do not know that he's 100% healthy. There's kind of been some context to answers, either between the lines or absent, that maybe he's not himself. Worn down, what does that mean? Is he tenderized from 14, 15 carries a game, or does he have something he can't shake? Who knows? You're not going to get any injury information from West Virginia, but I will ask you this. Who's bigger based on how you see them run? Is it Justin Crawford? Is it Kennedy McCoy, right? You probably can play back in your head the way they run the ball and how they attack the line of scrimmage and how they use their body, and you would say one of them is bigger, right? The answer is neither is bigger. They're both essentially the same size, but I think you can agree that the past 2 weeks at least, Kennedy McCoy has run harder, has played bigger, so to speak. I think they could use a dose of that. Just someone who doesn't pick his spots and wait for them to open. Can't really do that in a zone blocking scheme. You got to find a gap and you go. Maybe McCoy, maybe Pettaway plays more often, but certainly they need Crawford to play better. Josh White says, I'm sorry, but officiating was terrible last game between numerous missed holds on the WVU defensive line on the edge plays, the picked up offensive pass interference when the quarterback threw the ball out of bounds, and the delay of game on the punt return that hit a player. All right, well, this is just a litany of explanations here and complaints about the officiating. I'm not going to argue with you here. I've heard some stories about West Virginia's conversations with the Big 12, which kind of validates some of the complaints that you have, and I'm sure the coaches and the players have had. The defensive line delay game happens. I don't know if they were calling plays or if they were mimicking the snap. I've heard both sides of that story from obviously both sides of the competition, but sometimes people will hear something they want to hear, and sometimes a coach will make a note to put something in the official's ear. That could have been something that happened in the fourth quarter based on something that was observed or complained about in the first or second quarter. Who knows? I'm not sure you call that play right there, because it's not like Baylor had kept false starting or they were triggered to false start by some deceptive tactic by West Virginia. That was weird. I just have a hard time with watching these guys officiate because there's no certainty or any sort of authoritativeness to what they do. They know that in a lot of situations they have the safety net to work with of officiating with replay in their back pocket. They can go upstairs and look at anything, which means they don't have to be right in the field. That's unfortunate, and because that, in effect, the way that the system is set up, it does solve some problems. It adds to the length of the game, which is not any official's concern, but they want to get everything right. The problem with that is not every call is that subjective. There are things that are black and white and are not subject to review, and you can't convince me that these officials can, in the moment, separate their thinking and realize that they do have a safety net on some plays and they do not have a safety net on some others. Penalties, whatever, I'm not too worried about that. I just think the way they administrate games and calls is kind of, well, frankly, it's kind of terrible, and it's kind of an old story, but it's affecting play. It's not just affecting your team. You can watch a lot of games on Saturdays and see the same thing. You can read a lot of press clippings or watch press conferences and see the same things. But it certainly does seem to happen a lot of the times when West Virginia plays. John Makem, is Crawford 100% healthy? Don't know. Again, I just kind of paid attention to what people have said. I think if you watch him run, you can have questions. I don't know. Maybe we'll watch if teammates help him up and they don't help up his right arm because his right shoulder is sore. Who knows? Maybe that means there's some investigative work that we have to do. I just think that when you listen to what coaches say about how he's hit a wall or he's not as fresh as he was, there's obviously something physically that is not 100% to answer your question there. Rockwell say, do you believe WVU will be able to get 4+ defensive stops on the explosive Oklahoma State offense? Whew, that's an interesting over-under. I think so. I don't think that the defense played bad in the first 3 quarters. I actually think it was pretty good. You're always going to look at different metrics with the 3-3-5 or even Big 12 defenses. Field goals in the red zone, yardage over points, and they kind of did a good job. 13 points against even an 0-6 Big 12 team. It's pretty good. The fourth quarter was a disaster, but was it an anomaly? or was it just an abomination? It can be both. It can be something that just happened, and they got onside kicked and they couldn't get their backups in the game because they didn't want the roof to collapse on them. It might just have been a string of really bad and unpreventable or unmanageable circumstances. Who knows? But again, Tony Gibson has kind of figured out a way to defend some of these high-speed, high-powered offenses. 4 punts is interesting. You're probably looking at I think with the pace these teams play, maybe 11 to 13 possessions, which means 4 punts doesn't seem like it's too big of a deal, but 7 scores, you're talking 49 points, or are you talking 34, 37 points? There's a difference in there in that. So, again, 4 stops is good, but I think the fact is that Oklahoma State's going to get yardage. Can you cause them to maybe turn it over on downs on like a 4th and 3 from the 42? Or do you get them to miss field goals? Who knows? Special teams not a given. College kickers, they get hashtag on Twitter because they're not always reliable. Oklahoma State's usually pretty good in the kicking game, but nobody's perfect. And again, don't worry so much about 3 and outs or even punts, but 3s instead of 7s, or maybe risking it on 4th down instead of trying to go for a field goal. And also, this sounds weird and it's a twist on a cliche, but West Virginia's best defense could be its offense. If they can move the ball and get points, play keep away, and maybe make Oklahoma State's offense have to be more aggressive, or to be mindful of the fact that Will Grier is hot and they're going to have to match score for score. That can really help West Virginia's defense. Andres Romero, what is happening in the cornerback room? Where is Robinson standing? Who goes against Washington this week? I believe Washington is a strictly right side receiver, which means he would be up against Elijah Battle, correct? I do believe Elijah Battle will start. He's been the starter the last couple of weeks. Kenny Robinson's been limited in practice. Don't practice, don't play. Really strange that they only played 2 cornerbacks last week, played 3 the week before, and those are against 2 really different offenses. I think the pace of the game, you could probably get away with 2 cornerbacks, but 3 against Texas Tech is very interesting. And Oklahoma State does some devilish things with their offense. They're going to run streaks, and they're going to sub out receivers and put freshmen in, and they're going to run streaks again. Corners, they don't do that. They're going to play those 3 streaks in a row and hope that they can hold up. And they're going to get beat. That's the reality of what's awaits Saturday. They're going to get beat. They're going to give up big plays probably, or they're going to commit pass interference. They're going to be tested a bunch, and the numbers just say, if Oklahoma State tries to take 12 deep shots a game, which is not unusual, that's kind of an initiative for them, you're going to give up 1, or you're going to pull a jersey on 1. It's going to happen. It can't be 12. It can't be passes that end the end zone. You're going to have to hold up, but I think you're going to have to play more than 2, which means Kenny Robinson's got to get back in the field. I've been told Akeem Bailey has been a lot better. He kind of went through some confidence issues from what happened earlier in the season. Getting him on the field against Texas Christian wasn't a bad development for him. It showed that he could play in games, and more importantly, he understood practice gets you on the field. He's practiced better since, and apparently he's been very positive in meetings and practices even after recovering that onside kick that got West Virginia out of Waco Saturday. So 3 guys, 4 guys, probably helpful, but certainly got to do a number on Washington. But they have 3 or 4 guys. Lacey and Aitman are pretty good guys. They have speed guys. They have big guys. It's not just Washington. Washington can hurt you, but so can the other guys. You're not going to ever see Tony Gibson double team or play cover 2 and put a safety over both the outside receivers. So again, it's going to be on the cornerbacks. No stretch of the truth here to say that those 2, or however many guys play those 2 positions, they have to be good on Saturday. Josh White, WVU's onside kick coverage needs some major work. On the second one, the ball is not supposed to jump over Kaiser White, correct? I would think that was a really good kick. I don't know what to tell you. That was just, it bounced in a weird spot. The first one kind of ate up Reggie Roberson, actually. It wasn't Drayvon Askew Henry. It was Reggie Roberson. They wear the same number now. Kaiser White had a chance at the second one, and it just took a bum hop off him. What can you do? And he also got popped by a guy who came at his legs. That happens. I thought Bailey made a pretty good play to recover it. I thought the officials obviously missed, so there were 2 number 8s in the field, which kind of goes to what I was saying before. They can't really be trusted to do anything without any sort of complication. But I would think they were more guilty of getting schooled on the first onside kick of the season against East Carolina. If you watch that one, they're backpedaling off the line of scrimmage, and they are not in a position to recover. Just the kicker jumped on that ball too soon. Saturday, though, I don't think that they bailed on it. If you kind of watch it, their eyes are on the ball. I think you instinctively take a step backward, but they were not, numbers to the kicker. They were not gunning down the field. They were mindful of the possibility. They were probably warned about it on the side. It just took a really tough bounce. That's a hard play for Reggie Roberson to make. So, yeah, second one, kind of scary. If that doesn't come into Bailey's hands, if it gets batted around, who knows what happens. But you know what? You don't got to worry about that now. You just practice it and you make sure it doesn't happen again next time. As for next time, that is when we will have to wait for our next round of questions. Thanks for hanging out here. Follow our work on earsports.com. Interesting story up there right now, by the way. One about Will Grier and his life. West Virginia pulled him out today in front of reporters. He does not generally speak to the media during the week, not because he's mean or a bad guy or protected. He has class on Tuesdays, and that's when the media gets to talk to West Virginia's players. So in the midst of his very good season, and I think with his name popping up for some major awards, they try to get him out, get some publicity for him. Did Paul Feinbaum's radio show later in the day, too. In fairness, they also have a time during the week where they can actually do some national media stuff. But so that's one story we have up there right now. And also Jake Spavital kind of explaining the offensive philosophy late against Baylor and why on that one final fourth quarter possession, when they ran the ball, and then passed it twice, that kind of was their goal. They wanted to play fast. They weren't as interested in running clock as they were in scoring points. Kind of a weird point. Thought he defended it well, but you can decide whether you like it or not. So that's it for this time. I will see you next time for 24/7 Sports. I'm Mike Casazza.